Well, hi everybody, it's Erin Lebax. Thanks for asking for a video about my recent presentation, Building Relationships Through Intentional Writing. I'm going to walk us through just a few of the things we talked about that evening, but it kind of gives an overview, and feel free to reach out with questions if you'd like to learn more. First thing I did that evening was I asked the audience, what did you write today? And the reason we ask this is because many of us wrote all kinds of things all day long. Texts, posts, social media, comments, updates on Teams and Wrike, emails, documents, notes to family members, notes to other people, instructions, commands, things of all sorts, right? So we write all the time to all different kinds of people. And guess what? That is where our relationship with those people takes place often. We can imagine any of the people in this photo having just read an email or maybe a lesson plan or an update on social media, and they all have some kind of reaction on their face. That's what we want to be thinking about when we write. How will our readers react to the words we choose? For example, we could take a sentence like, "We invite you to attend the writing workshop," and we could think a little bit about the tone there. I have a feeling we could make the tone a little bit stronger, more inviting perhaps. And so when we look at this, we can piece out the fact that the we is what we call the doer. If you've read some of the high value writing book or posts, the doer, the subject who's doing stuff, and that's in pink there. And then invite and attend are verbs or actions. And I pulled those out because those are some of the strongest options that we have for changing tone. And so we can imagine what would happen if we did an activity when we were in person where we filled in different words for we. What if it said Erin invites you? Now it's a little more intimate. What if it's the Association for Talent Development invites you? Now it's a little more formal and official. Similarly, when we say we invite you to attend, what if we would have said we invite you to join or we invite you to enjoy? That might have been a stronger tone, more welcoming. So we're always going to think about who we want to put as our doer, who should get the attention, how formal and official we want it to be. And then we should always think about what tone our verbs set, because verbs do a lot more than just give information. They set a tone. And so let's get a little more into detail. Doers, who, subject of our sentence, they can impact the formality, how included people feel, and who matters. For example, if we said we invite you, our team invites you, human resources invites you, we can imagine that shifting some of those feelings based on which doer we chose. Similarly, actions and verbs, those can make people feel either more or less engaged. For example, attend the workshop, enjoy the workshop. They can make people feel more respected or less. They can affect power dynamics, and we're going to see some of that in a moment. Okay, so a couple examples here. With these doers or subjects, we're thinking, who's the who? Who do we want our sentence to be about? I could say Caring County invites you to join the workshop, and I would sound official. I could say you can join the workshop by registering here, and I would sound like I was very oriented to my reader, which is also good. Or I could say all employees can register, and then I would be putting the power with the employees. So we have three examples here. One, Caring County, it's a little more top down, but a little more credibility and official for that reason. All employees, that's a little more bottom up. So we can think about what kind of power dynamic we want to set up, and do we want to talk about people at the top or all of us? And of course, you puts the power right in the center with the reader. So that's often a really good idea to do. Actions are going to set our tone. Caring County requests your feedback on the evaluation form. Request makes me feel like, well, they really do want it. Maybe they are actually saying I have to, I'm not sure, but they want it, they're going to use it, it sounds important. If I switch that to needs, it might even sound more important. It would sound a little less formal as well, probably. And if we say Caring County welcomes your feedback, now we have a much more friendly tone, but it does make it sound less mandatory. So when you're choosing your verb, you want to think about, well, which verbs make things sound more mandatory or less so? Which of them allow your reader to retain some feeling of choice and empowerment, which I think is often our goal. Okay, so we're going to look at just 2 scenarios where these ideas about doers and actions could impact things like power dynamics. And I talk a lot more about this in the High Value Writing book and also in some of my sessions. So feel free to reach out if you'd like more info. But let's take a look at this idea about, could our words affect feelings of hierarchy and power? And I'm going to go ahead and add color to this too, so we can see in the pink we have who is getting the spotlight, and in the teal we have these actions. So if we have a sentence about who's in charge of something and it's Belinda, these are 3 options. Let's kind of listen for how they maybe give us a different feeling about either Belinda or the writer's view of themselves and Belinda. We could say, I handed that program off to Belinda after last year, which is nice to know, but it does keep the focus on I, not Belinda who's doing the work now. So if I were Belinda, I might think, I'm in charge of that now, maybe I should get the credit. So we could say, well, Belinda is in charge of that program this year. And I think that's better. She's in charge, she's leading it. This year sounds a little temporary, so that might be, affect the feelings of respect a little bit. But if we go to Belinda supervises that program now, or even just Belinda supervises that program, we really get the feeling of authority from supervise. She is not someone who's just had a program handed off to them. She just isn't in charge. She's literally the supervisor. And we see that more from the 3rd writing, which gives us a good example of how we can carefully make sure that we're showing respect and respecting people's authority as we write to them. All right, next example, last one for this brief kind of overview video. What about using writing to create community? And let's add some color to see who we're talking about here. We're talking about I, let's, and we. And then we're talking about IT and somebody named Sasha. So I talk about this because many of the people I work with in leadership development programs are new supervisors. They truly care about building community among all their recruits, all their team members who often work at home. And, these new managers are very caring. They don't want them to feel alone. So they'll ask me questions like, can I create community with my team just by the way I write my weekly update emails? And I say, yeah, definitely. So let's check this out. How are we either keeping the emphasis on ourselves or spreading it to the broader community and team in these examples? We've got, I'd like to follow up on the new IT insights raised last week. Sounds good, but it certainly sounds controlled by that person, that supervisor who's writing it. I'd like to follow up on the new IT insights Sasha raised last week. Okay, now we're starting to share the stage between I and Sasha. We still are not really bringing in the rest of the team who might be reading this though. What about another change? Let's follow up on Sasha's insights from last week. The I is gone. We're no longer having a supervisor who might appear self-focused in this email. That's the idea that the whole team is going to get together and follow up on what Sasha brought to us. And then lastly, when we discussed IT, Sasha brought up an integration idea. Similarly, we can see there that we're talking about the whole team and we're also giving credit where it's due to Sasha. So we have 2 important features with this example, making sure people get credit and recognition, and also making sure that we're talking about ourselves as a group on equal standing, a team, instead of keeping the focus accidentally on ourselves. Okay, so just to kind of reiterate or add this in there for you all, there are a few ways you can impact power dynamics and other emotional and team building issues through word choice. Level of respect can change based on who you make important in your sentence, what kind of verbs you use to talk about them. Power dynamics, you could be more or less motivating, more or less inclusive. You could show what matters more or less, what's important, and you can share the blame, the credit, or the responsibility through your words. And so try that out, consider some of those tips there, and shoot me an email if you'd like to know more. I'll be following up on some of these ideas in more detail on my YouTube channel, High Value Writing. So I'd love to see you over there. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon.